Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We just passed 280 subs. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and I hope I can continue to make great content you guys will enjoy in the future. Now, the ReliaQuest Bowl is between the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Who do I think is going to win this bowl game? Let's break it down. Now, Mississippi State is 8-4 and 4-4 in the SEC this season, and Mike Leach, their head coach, has sadly passed away. Rest in peace to him. And unfortunately for Mississippi State players, they will be without their head coach, but they're going to be playing with pride in this bowl game for him in the memory of Mike Leach. And Zach Arnett, their defensive coordinator, has now been promoted to be their new head coach. But Mississippi State had a great season under Mike Leach, finishing the season at 8-4. And they beat Memphis in week 1, 49-23, and that was a good win. Then they won at Arizona 39-17. That was a good win. Then they lost at LSU 31-16. That was a tough loss. Then they beat Bowling Green 45-14. Then they beat Texas A&M 42-24. Then they beat Arkansas 40-17. That was a good win. Then they lost at Kentucky 27-17. That was a tough loss. Then they lost at Alabama 30-6, and they were not really competitive against Bama. Then they beat Auburn in overtime 39-33 at home. That was a good win. Then they lost to Georgia 45-19 at home. That was another tough loss. They just could not compete with the Bulldogs. Then they beat East Tennessee State 56-7. And then they won at Ole Miss in Mike Leach's final game as head coach, winning 24-22 on the road in the Egg Bowl. And that was a great win to finish out Mike Leach's awesome career as a head coach, and Mississippi State had a great season. And quarterback Will Rogers was 386 of 566 for 3,713 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He had a fantastic season under Mike Leach's air raid offense. He did not turn the ball over too many times, didn't have too many interceptions. He made great decisions most of the year, and he had a fantastic season. And running back Jaquavius Marks at 103 attempts for 532 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's a solid running back. Mississippi State does not run the football as much as other teams do because of the air raid, but when he had his chances to run the ball, he delivered for Mississippi State. Wide receiver Rufus Harvey had 50 receptions for 472 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's going to have to step up for Mississippi State with wide receiver Rara Thomas in the transfer portal. On the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Nathaniel Watson has 108 total tackles, 49 solo tackles, 5 sacks, an interception, a forced fumble. Linebacker Jet Johnson has 103 total tackles, 43 solo tackles, a sack, and 2 fumble recoveries. And linebacker DeCamerion Richardson has 78 total tackles, 44 solo tackles, and a fumble recovery. And even though Mississippi State's offense always gets applauded for what Mike Leach was able to do with the air raid, Mississippi State's defense actually was improved this year. It was much better than it's been in the past, and Mississippi State's defense helped them win a lot of games this year. But I would still say that their offense was a little bit better than their defense. And on the Illinois side, they were 8-4 and 5-4 in the Big Ten this season. And Bret Bielema, he did a great job as the head coach of Illinois. He's turned them around. Illinois was really struggling under Lovie Smith, but now they're playing much better football, and they had a great season, finishing at 8-4, making a bowl game. And in week 0, they beat Wyoming 38-6, and that was a good win. Then they lost at Indiana 23-20. That was a tough loss. Then they beat Virginia 24-3. Then they beat Chattanooga 31-0. And then they won at Wisconsin 34-10, and that was the game that got Paul Chryst fired. That was a great win for Illinois. Then they beat Iowa 9-6 in a low-scoring game. Then they beat Minnesota 26-14. That was a good win. Then they won at Nebraska 26-9, and Illinois was on a roll. But then they had a tough 3-game losing streak, losing to Michigan State at home 23-15, Purdue at home 31-24. And they lost at Michigan 19-17, all tough losses there. And then they bounced back and won at Northwestern 41-3 in the final game of the regular season. And Illinois did have a great season, even though they had a tough 3-game losing streak toward the end of the season. And quarterback Tommy DeVito was 234 of 335 for 2,397 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 70 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Tommy DeVito, the transfer from Syracuse, had a great season for Illinois. He might not have had as many touchdowns as some other great quarterbacks in the Big Ten, but he did not turn the ball over as much, and he did everything that Illinois asked him to do. And running back Reggie Love is 59 attempts for 277 yards and 5 touchdowns and 9 receiving yards. He's going to have to step up in this bowl game because their starting running back Chase Brown has opted out for the draft. That's a really tough loss for Illinois, but Reggie Love is a capable running back. And wide receiver Isaiah Williams, the former quarterback, had 72 receptions for 595 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's an electric wide receiver. And on the defense side of the ball, linebacker Isaac Darkangelo has 67 total tackles, 41 solo tackles, a sack, and a fumble recovery. Defensive back Jartavius Martin has 59 total tackles, 47 solo tackles, a sack, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble. And defensive lineman Jerzon Newton has 56 total tackles, 26 solo tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries. And Illinois had a great season on defense. They are going to miss cornerback Devon Witherspoon and safety Sidney Brown in this bowl game, but Illinois had a great season on defense. but they still have a lot of pieces that are available in this bowl game to help them win. And Illinois' offense was really solid as well, but I would say that Illinois' defense was a bit better than their offense. So who do I think is going to win the ReliaQuest Bowl? Mississippi State, they are playing for their head coach, Mike Leach, and I think that's going to really motivate Mississippi State players on offense and defense to really want to win this game for their former head coach. Again, it's so sad, and rest in peace to Mike Leach. He did a great job at all the stops that he was at, and he was a great man, and I really believe that Mississippi State is really going to play hard in this bowl game for him. Plus, they had a great season overall. Mississippi State has a great offense. Will Rogers leads the air raid offense effortlessly, and they just have a great offense overall, and their defense has been much improved this year. And I think Zach Arnett will stabilize the program and get Mississippi State ready for this bowl game due to all the chaos and turmoil that's gone on. But again, I think Mississippi State will play really hard in this bowl game for Mike Leach. They don't have any players opting out. Everybody wants to be here. They do have a couple of transfer portal players that matter. But at the end of the day, I think Mississippi State has enough players that want to play in this bowl game for their former head coach. And on the Illinois side, I think Bret Bielema, he's done a fantastic job with Illinois this year. Illinois was a surprise team. A lot of people thought they would improve, but maybe not as much as they did, even though they had a 3-game losing skid toward the end of the season. Still, nothing takes away how great of a season this was for Illinois. And quarterback Tommy DeVito, he's a really solid quarterback, but it is going to be tough for him to navigate the Illinois offense without running back Chase Brown. He was fantastic for Illinois this season, rushing for over 1,500 yards. That's a tough loss, him opting out for the draft. And Illinois is going to miss their 2 defensive players at cornerback and safety, and Devon Witherspoon and Sidney Brown, because of the fact that Mississippi State throws the ball so much. Those are 2 tough losses for Illinois to have, because they're not going to be able to stop Mississippi State's passing attack as well without both of them. But I still think Illinois' defense will really show up in this game, and I think Illinois' offense will show up to play in this bowl game as well. But I think Mississippi State, again, they're playing for their head coach, and I think they just have more talent on both sides of the ball and not as many important opt-outs and transfer portal players as Illinois does. I'm going to go with Mississippi State to beat Illinois 28-24 in the ReliaQuest Bowl. I think Illinois can win this game. They still have a lot of good players on their team, even though they are missing 3 of their most important players. I think they're going to play well on both sides of the ball. I think Illinois' offense will put up a good amount of points and yards on Mississippi State's defense, and I think Illinois' defense will be able to slow down Mississippi State's offense a decent amount. But I think that Mississippi State on both sides of the ball is going to be fired to play for their former head coach. I think Mississippi State's offense is going to play really well in this game. I think they're going to be able to score on Illinois' defense, especially without their top 2 defensive backs in this game. And I think that Mississippi State's defense will be able to slow down Illinois' offense just enough. And I think that Mississippi State's going to beat Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl 28-24. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Mississippi State or Illinois is going to win this bowl game and why. And I will see you next time.